Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Cloud Operations Show, the AWS Cloud Operations Show. I'm super excited to have you with us today. We have a great show. We're going to be diving deep today into database monitoring with Amazon CloudWatch. And we have a great panel with us today joining us that will help us understand how we can keep our databases performing at their best. So let me bring them on so they can introduce themselves. And here they are. So let's go ahead and start with Felix. Felix, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Felix Mezo, and I am a product manager in the Amazon CloudWatch team, where I've been for the last 4 years helping customers observe their applications and databases.
Excellent. Thank you. Joe, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi all. My name is Joe Eliotto. I am a cloud operations specialist solutions architect here at AWS. I've been with AWS for about 3 years almost, and I've been just doing all kinds of different IT stuff for about the past 22. That's me.
Joe is full of energy. I introduced him
Yeah.
In a LinkedIn post today. I introduced him as a specialist cloud ninja in observability.
It's true. That's why I'm in black. I just throw on the hood.
There you go. There you go. All right. Saurabh, please go ahead.
Hello everyone, I am Saurabh Kothawde. I am a product manager in AWS RDS team, Relational Database Services. I have been with AWS for almost 3 years now, with Amazon for more than 8 years, and I'm working in database and storage domain from last 6 years.
Awesome. So we have the right people here today to talk about database monitoring. That's awesome. And I know you guys are going to share about some new features that we have introduced. So I'm very, very excited about that. But before we dive deep into those specific features, guys, I think it's important that we first talk about why database monitoring is so important. Why is it so crucial? So Felix, I want to start with you. What would you say keeps database admins up at night?
Yeah, so I always like to start when people ask me this question by trying to approach it from a first principles thinking approach, which is like databases are absolutely everywhere. We see it from customers. We have customers with thousands of databases. It's an ever-growing set of databases and gene types, different flavors. It's not only that; it's that they are holding customers' data. So they are actually storing the most important part of our customers and also for our own Amazon applications and services that we sell now. So they are critical, as in they are everywhere, they store data. And not only that, is that they support applications. So it's like in a world of microservices and also an ever-growing set of microservices and applications with more complexity that all introduces a lot of inconsistencies sometimes in the way customers approach telemetry collection, setting up dashboards. So all in all, it makes it crucial and at the same time complex at scale. And that's why we are here to help.
Awesome. No, that is so true. And I'm glad you mentioned that how critical databases are. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go down, but if the database goes down or it's not performing, there's going to be trouble, right? There's going to be trouble. Saurabh, anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I would like to add to that. As Felix called out, database is critical for every application's health today, right? And with ever-growing scale of applications, the databases are also growing. There are, different flavors of databases in the market. Like some are using Postgres databases, some are using MySQL, some are using Oracle, SQL Server, which are there from a long time. And each of them have their own architectures and own nuances to take care of. So when it comes to database performance, there are multiple things they need to think through. And not all users are well versed with the database fundamentals or the database architectures. There are many organizations where application developers are, have responsibility of managing both the application as well as the databases. And to understand database performance, you need to know multiple things, like database performance can degrade because of a wrong workload type, or maybe your database is not configured correctly, or maybe there is a hardware limits, or maybe there is a operating system patch that you have not upgraded to. Within the database, maybe your SQL query is not rightly structured, or your execution plans have flipped, and that's why the query which was running well now is slowed down or performance has degraded. So there are so many factors when it comes to database performance. That's why it becomes challenging for a novice user or amateur user to diagnose and deep dive and understand the root cause. That's why it becomes important to give a holistic view for our customers to understand the database performance and if it impacting their applications or not.
Got you. So what I'm hearing is that database monitoring is complex. There's a lot of moving parts, right? So we need to make it simple, keep it simple, right? And I hear you with that. I know that I have a lot of I lost a lot of nights in my day-to-day operations day because of a database problem. So I can relate to that. So since database monitoring is important, and as we progress to some of the things we want to discuss, another point that I think we should level set on is let's talk a little bit about how database monitoring has evolved during the years, right? So, Sarah, maybe you can talk about that a little bit, how it has evolved over the years.
Yes, so like if you know, databases have been there from last 2 3 decades now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even customers are managing databases on cloud for more than a decade now, or almost 2 decades now. And I would like to share the journey of how observability has evolved, right? So when we launched RDS and Aurora, when AWS announced RDS and Aurora, for observability, we used to only provide simple single-dimensional time series metrics such as your CPU utilization, your memory
Mm-hmm.
utilization, your network throughput consumption, things like that. And that is where we started. But as you know, as a human being, we always want more, right? And we always want to make our life better, simpler. So customers started asking for more visibility into metrics like, hey, you are
Mm-hmm.
giving us database instance level metrics. We want
Mm-hmm.
visibility on the operating system level things. We want to know how much of my database processes are consuming my CPU versus how much my other system level processes are consuming my memory or CPU. So we
Mm-hmm.
launched a product called Enhanced Monitoring to give visibility on how the operating systems is going on, what processes are consuming how much CPU, how much memory. And then after that, then databases are not like any other services, right? In databases, specifically in relational databases, customers write SQL queries. See, customers write complex SQL queries with multiple joins, stored procedures, and everything. So they say that, hey, we want you are giving us visibility on the metrics, my operating system level metrics, my instance level metrics. Give us now visibility on the SQL level metrics to us. So that's why we conceptualize a product called Performance Insights, and we launched it in 2018, where we started providing visibility on SQL query level metrics to our users. And that was the time when we introduced our flagship metric called database load. And when an application interacts with a database, there is a session, right? The session is nothing but a dialogue between an application and a database. And a session can be idle or an active. Let's say an
Mm-hmm.
application is running queries, then the session is active. If application is not hitting database, then the session is inactive or idle.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is at RDS, we go and capture the session activity every second. And we provide you a metric called average active session, which we call database load, which gives you a holistic view of what level of database activity is going on, because it captures both the things. If there are some queries which are running very frequently, or there is a one single query which is a long running, both these aspects are captured by these average active session metrics and gives you a holistic picture of your database activity or a database load. And that is what we launched in 2018. But again, that was not enough. Customers said that, hey, you are just giving us an instance level view. We are not able to correlate if this database, let's say I get to know that, hey, there is an issue with my database. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it is impacting my application. And if it is impacting which application, which service is it impacting? I don't have visibility on those. You are given us some metrics, SQL query level things, but we want advanced root cause analysis features. Especially in databases, relational databases, there are problems of locking and deadlocks. Almost 20% of database performance issues arise from locking conditions. So give us visibility on the locking trees, give us a visibility on deadlocks, give us visibility on execution plan, tell us
Mm-hmm.
if execution plans flipped. So all these requirements came up, and offer to solve or address all these requirements, we collaborated with CloudWatch team, because customers also said that, hey, all my container metrics, Lambda metrics, application metrics are in CloudWatch. We look at CloudWatch as single stop solution for all our observability needs in AWS. But for databases, relational databases specifically, we have to come to the RDS console, come to the performance insights page. Can you give us a single pane of glass view? So these were the problems we identified, and then we collaborated with CloudWatch team to come up with database insights. And now I would like to hand over to Felix to talk about how we went about addressing all these requirements in CloudWatch database insights.
Awesome. That's a good history. Go ahead, Felix, please.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I just would like to say that when we started like thinking about database insights and we started talking to customers and partnering with the RDS and the Aurora teams, we mostly focus around 4 key categories of customer problems or features that our customers kept asking for. No? The first one is what Saurabh said last, which is the application performance integration. You know, it's like customers were telling us, look, I have everything in CloudWatch. You know, databases are part of my everything. You know, and I don't want to go somewhere else. I just want to have a look in the same dashboard at all my application level metrics, but also my infrastructure metrics, and also my SQL query metrics. But I want to be in CloudWatch. You know, it's where I have my stuff. You know, so we deeply focused on that, and we introduced a seamless integration with application signals, which is CloudWatch application performance monitoring feature that allows you to very quickly understand what calling services are calling what databases and how that is contributing to database load and potential application level degraded experiences. You know? The second part is around scale. You know, around what Saurabh said before is like performance insights did very well, but it only provided a per instance dashboard. You know? So you could only have a look at an instance at a time. You know, with database insights, we are building an experience that is built for scale, addressing our largest enterprise customers, where you can build fleet-wide views up to thousands of resources, consolidating all telemetry signals into a unified view across all database metrics, logs, application level metrics, operating system metrics, SQL query.
I think we lost Felix there for a moment. We'll give him a second. I still have you guys there, so
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I can add on what Felix was saying. Like,
yeah, please go ahead, Saurabh. Yeah, and
Felix spoke about the application performance integration with application signals, then the fleet level monitoring view, where it gives you a bird eye view of all your database instances in your account, and you can identify problematic instances. There are big companies or big enterprise customers who have hundreds of instances in their account, and going instance by instance is a very cumbersome experience for them. So we have introduced a fleet level view, which gives you an bird eye view or a health summary of your fleet, which helps you identify problematic instances in your fleet and pay attention to those specific instances, right? So that was the new introduction, that is a new feature that we introduced in database insights. Then we introduced a lot of advanced root cause analysis features. Like as I said, there are many database performance issues occur or arise from locking conditions. Yeah. So we have provided and introduced a feature called lock contention diagnostics, or analyze locking conditions, where you can visualize the locking trees. You can see which session is blocking which session, for how long is it blocking, the metrics associated with it, like which is the session ID, which is the query that is blocking, which is the dominating query, so that you can identify the root cause behind your performance issues. Then we have introduced execution plans. I think we have Felix back.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think my internet connection dropped and I've been talking to myself for the last minute.
Okay, that happens. So that happens. We're live.
I don't know where it drops.
No, you just started talking about the integration with application signals.
Okay.
And Saurabh was kind enough to kind of dive a little deeper into that. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would say it's like our first area of focus was obviously application performance monitoring, because as I said, that was our customers were asking for. Like, I want to look at everything in the same place. So that's why we focus very much on introducing this seamless integration with application signals and helping you assess how your calling services are actually calling what databases are introducing database load in your overall database fleet. But again, performance insights did very well at providing you with a dashboard, a per instance dashboard. But that's not enough. Like, our customers have thousands of databases, and they were telling us, look, I want to have an eagle eye view of the health of my infrastructure estate for databases. No? And my estate can have 20,000 databases. No? And I want to be able to build these kind of fleet-wide monitoring views where I can have a look at the health of my system for my DBAs that can control, again, hundreds of databases across different business units. No? So the database insights is built for scale and targeting those kind of large enterprise customers that can have like thousands of databases. We are also consolidating, as I said, all database telemetry across metrics, logs, operating system metrics, SQL query metrics, application level metrics, everything into a unified view so that you don't have to switch tabs, introducing cognitive load in your troubleshooting journeys. Everything is in the same place. And as we said at the beginning, like databases are complex. There has been this role of the DBA like forever. And that's because it's a complex thing. It requires deep knowledge. It's sometimes hard to get started. So we wanted to make it super easy. So that's why we're building these, I would say, advanced and somehow complex pre-built dashboards that we believe work at assessing the health of your fleet. Okay, so we're giving you an opinionated approach where we are giving you predefined thresholds of what we consider healthy or unhealthy. So it's super easy for you to get started. You don't really have to think about what metric to look at or what threshold to establish. So it's like reducing the barrier for database expertise required. And the last thing, which is super critical, is the advanced SQL query analysis and telemetry. So in database insights, we invested a lot in introducing new advanced SQL query level telemetry or features around slow SQL queries, SQL log contention diagnostics, execution plans, and all that, the four things like application performance monitoring, scale, getting started, and the SQL query metrics all together make database insights. And that's kind of we consider a big leap forward from performance insights.
Awesome. That's awesome. Sounds exciting. I like it. So that's a good history of how things have continued to progress. And I think we have a great product with database insights. But let's see it in action. Joe, you want to go ahead?
My
That's the
turn.
fun part.
All right.
Yeah. Let's
Awesome.
do this. Let me put your screen on stage, and we would
All
love
right.
to see a demo.
I hope your
Well, here
internet
we
doesn't
are.
drop, Joe.
Ready to go.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
I have a good Wi-Fi connection. We should be good. I got 5 bars. Hopefully nothing happens to the router. We should be okay. Fingers
Okay.
crossed. So you should see my dashboard. As you can see here, this is very common, console home. But before we look at database insights, how do you enable it, right? Let's kind of just start there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Aurora and RDS, and then I'll see how this looks. All right, letting it load. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and look at my instances. From here, I'm going to go ahead and open this retail dev cluster. All right, and then let's just modify the settings of that cluster. And we're going to go down to the observability section where we can find database instance. We're going to scroll down right here under monitoring. So there's 2 sections, right? There's database insights standards, which retains 7 days of performance history and has some limited functionality. But what we're going to be demoing today is database insights advanced, right? And we have the 15 months of performance history. So all those metrics are kept in line with the 15-month retention policy that CloudWatch has. And then some other integration with like CloudWatch application signals and some other stuff we're going to see next. So let's go ahead and
Also,
jump
just
over.
small
Oh, go
comment,
ahead.
Joe. Like it's also important,
Sure.
like for the full database insights advanced mode experience, you also should enable database logs export.
Yes.
Some of the features, which is a little bit down, yeah. So some of the features depend on having this enabled, like the slow query analysis and other stuff. So yeah, that's a small call out.
Yeah, and there are a few other caveats to enable features like execution plans. You need specific parameter group settings that do vary from engine to engine, and that's in the documentation, which we'll give you later. But it is in there. So
and this works on CloudFormation infrastructure as code. Like Joe is making the demo on the console, but it obviously works through API.
All right, so now let's get to it. Let's go see database insights. My favorite insights.
So after, I have a question, and pardon my ignorance on this. So after I enable this, does the database need some sort of maintenance mode, or is this just immediate?
It's immediate. It doesn't require any reboot or any maintenance. It's
that's awesome. Very good.
All right. So in CloudWatch, I just scrolled down to the insights and clicked on database insights. There's a lot of data here. So I'm going to zoom out a bit. So
Hey,
it's
hey,
just
you
not
lost
all...
me, man. Where did you go? Show me again.
Oh, sorry. I'll go
This
back.
is so you go to, okay. So
in
CloudWatch.
CloudWatch, on the
Uh-huh.
navigation pane, I scroll down to insights.
I see.
And once you expand the insights, there's the database insights section.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right here.
Nice.
So
nice.
once you
oh,
click
this
this-
looks a lot like container insights.
It sure does.
So it's very, the design should sound familiar for
Okay.
customers. Yeah.
Very good.
All right. So what we have here is we have our fleet view. We have two views, fleet view and database instance view. We're going to focus on fleet view. This is where I'm showing you, we have this little honeycomb section where we can see our fleet in the current region and account that we're in, right? We can see it from the alarms view where we can see there's a couple of instances in alarm. Maybe that's something we're going to look at in a minute, but also the database load view where we can see different instances within our database fleet are under different levels of load, right? From high or warning or okay. And so that's based on the DB load utilization, right? And we list the top instances that we have here, which is what Saurabh was talking about previously, that load metric that has to do with like the number of sessions in CPU load that's happening based on that. Okay, but I have a fleet of instances and I want to manage my fleet, not a single instance. So how do I do that? Well,
So what happens?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
but what happens if you, like one of the examples that Felix said before was that, I mean, nobody has, I don't know, 7, 8 databases, right? They have like hundreds, right?
Yeah.
What happens when you have hundreds? How does this look? Does it look like the same or?
So we adapt the honeycomb and make the honeycomb cells
Smaller.
a little bit smaller.
Gotcha.
But I think like for scale, what's better is if you have a look in the left panel, we have a very powerful set of filters. And for different tags that you can apply. And you can on the fly slice and dice and I'll adapt the view for you, and then you can save the view. But I don't want to break Joe's demo. I think.
No, go ahead.
No. This is good. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
Awesome.
And so when you have hundreds of instances and you need to find what you're looking for, we give you filters, right? Some basic properties for the instances. But what I think is the most powerful is using tags. Like part of like AWS best practices, right? And being well architected is having a proper tagging strategy and being able to manage those, not just for identifying your resources, but also for cost allocation. So for our instances, we have an environment variable where it's prod or dev. And someone just reached out to me and said, hey, our dev environment is getting it's really slow performance and we need to see why. And it's for a retail application. So I'm like, okay, so let me go ahead and select the environment that's dev. I know that we have a service that we use and it's our retail service. So I'm going to select that. But all of a sudden I'm seeing that like 4. I only expected to see a couple. Well, that's because we give you this little operator on the side where we could say, hey, is it either of these tags? We'll give you anything that has either of these tags. Or if you want it to match both, just say I want it to be and both of these tags. Cool. So now I can see. I'm guessing that the red box is the one that has the performance issue, right? It's the high utilization. But before I jump to that, I know I may need to come back to this later. So what we can do is we can save this fleet and I can have it be the dev retail fleet, right? So now when I save this, down at the bottom, I now have a saved fleet that I could jump to in the future or just search for it a bit easier without having to filter it. Before I dive into this, something I want to highlight is all of the metrics that you see within this pane, which we'll go through, depending on the fleet you select, those update automatically. You don't have to worry about filtering or refreshing. You select the fleet and you're going to see what you need to see.
And also the global time picker updates everything.
Yeah. So let's go through this just briefly. This is just the top 10 instances by load utilization for this cluster. We can see that this specific instance has the most impact. We can see some top queries contributing to load on that instance. We can see top wait events. Actually, I'm going to come back over here because I don't have events. But if you have instances that are showing events, you can come into the details and view the events, what instance they're on, when they happened. right, for those systems. Come back over here. We have calling services. That's that
Just
application
one more
signal.
thing, Joe, like when events, like why are we showing these events, right? Like there are sometimes failover
sure.
occurred,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
let's say backup restore happened. That sometimes impacts your database performance. So that is
Yeah.
why we show these events tab here, so that you can identify, hey, what happened during that time.
And here again, we are processing the events and we are making an opinion on whether they are critical or they are not critical, and we are giving that to you. So it's kind of an opinionated approach. You don't really have to think or get distracted in hundreds of events that you could potentially have in a large fleet.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Joe, keep going.
Yeah, getting back to it. Calling services. So application performance monitoring, our end-to-end observability on what's happening with our application front ends and our database back ends. This is where we have the integration. So looking at this retail service dev environment, I know that this retail service dev service that we have running has end-to-end traces and information for us to understand how that's performing. We'll come and look at that later, I promise. And then we just have some more opinionated metrics for like top 10 instances for that fleet. You can choose very common ones that you would like to see, like CPU utilization, free memory, read-write related and networking instance metrics, right? So you just choose what makes sense for you, and you can have those just on your front page. But to dive a bit deeper, we're going to go into the instances, which we're going to do in a second. And then lastly, you can see your RDS instances overview here. We can see the one that has the most performance load. The colors kind of tell it off as well with the alarm, and the like database insights mode. So it's advanced that you can see here. You'd see standard if it was standard otherwise.
Yeah, basically in the list view, we are basically showing the same data that we are showing in the honeycomb, but just in table formats, and customers like that more. In the end, same thing. You can also sort. You can view the same information that you have in the honeycomb.
And I can also see that you can search there. So if you have a large list,
Yeah.
you know, you can tell them all about large lists, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a large list, you can
Yeah.
actually search. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and just jump over to this instance.
Mm-hmm.
So as you noticed, we moved over to database instance view, right? We're not going to need this left panel for now. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse this, and then we'll focus on what we're seeing here. So in here, we have our database load, where as we can see the number of active sessions based on weights here today, we see that increased recently. We can also see this alarm that's firing for this instance that we saw before. It's specifically related to a high load alarm that we have for this DB load relative metric, right? I'm not going to focus on that now, but I want to show you how you can start to carve this data. I'm going to shrink it a little bit so we can work with this better. But how we can start carving out this data to identify the who, what, where, when, why things are happening. So we have these 4 tabs. Before I do that, we have DB load analysis, where we can start looking at those top SQL weights, hosts, etc., which we're going to go through. After we kind of go through this, we'll dive into some telemetry, show you some performance reports, and then go into the APM aspect. That's where we're going to end up. From here, we've seen an increase in load, and we want to identify what's causing that, right? So for this one, I'm just looking at some of the top queries we have now.
Just one question, Joe. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Like, how do I know whether I have high load or not? So if you see there is this white dotted line, max vCPU line. So there is a checkbox right next to analyze performance, which tells you show max vCPU line. So that is a dotted line which tells you how many vCPU cores are there on your database instance. And as per a guidance or as a thumb rule, that on an average, your database activity should be less than number of vCPU cores that are present in your instance. So if you see your average active sessions more than your max vCPU limit, then there is something you need to pay attention to. So that's what Joe was calling out, that hey, there is high database load on my instance. What do I do next?
Yeah.
Shrink back out for a second. There we go. Oh, that's a little too small. We'll do this. And so what we have is we have 2 sections. And the way I like to think about it is I focus on what my primary, item I want to focus on here first for me. And so one of the things I notice is someone is running a select star from the orders table. I know the orders table is large. That's not a query that we should be running or even running like very often or consistently. But I believe it is. So I'm going to, before I do that, let's just take a look at it from here. And we can see the various different queries that are running. We can see that there's pretty consistent usage from that select star from orders. Well, who's doing that? Why is that happening? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this query. All right. And now I'm just viewing the details for that. Well, let's see what application's running this, right? So for that query, I see a DB operations application's running that. Well, who's running that? Let's see what user's running that. Oh, it's our DBA intern, and he's actively running it consistently. Sessions of that for some reason. I don't know why, but we're going to find out. We're going to find out why he's doing that. But where's he running it from? Right. So let me go to the host and see. Okay, so now I know that on this server, the DBA intern user on the DB operations team is consistently running a select star query. And it's just constantly running. So maybe I can go run over to them and be like, hey, what's going on here? This user's using it. They're on the system. Who can stop this? And like, let's do a little education there, right? Just a simple example. That's a way that you can kind of start to dive in around queries. But the same thing works in different ways, right? This is one simple example. You could start with hosts and be like, which host has the most utilization, right? Let me look at that host because that one by far has the most sessions. What SQL is running on that host? What's doing the most? Okay, we see on this one, most of it's coming from that select star. And so just as an example, I'm not going to go through every scenario, but you could start carving it out by seeing where the load is, what the load is, and then start breaking down who's doing it, why is it happening, when did it start from the graph, right?
There's something I really love about these views is you can have a look at the database load, which is the most important metric, from two different angles at the same time. So you are always looking at two dimensions, and both are interacting with each other. So right now, Joe is looking at SQL on top and top hosts below, and is both showing the same picture but from different angles, and that really helps when troubleshooting. And define contributors. Yeah.
This horizontal view really helps me visualize which one has the most load the easiest. And then being able to like break down where do I need to dive deeper at the top to find it. And I found that works really well. So
what is the purple versus the blue?
Those are the different queries from the SQL mode. So like this blue is this specific query based on the host usage. And then the purple is this query here.
Okay.
And so as we carve that out, and we'll look at this in a few different ways when we come to like locks as well, which we'll see a lot of pretty things with locks. But it's an easy way to start focusing on what you want to see, right? You can see from the colors and understand what it is. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of come back to Top SQL. We talked about execution plans, right? And understanding, like, let's say that the performance has been degraded, like Saurabh mentioned before. Right. So what you would see if there was a plan flip, which I don't have an example of it here, but if you select this plans button, which in order to enable the plan analysis, execution plan analysis, you do have to set specific parameters depending on the database engine you're using in order to get this information that's in the documentation that we'll give you a code to later in order to see this information. But what you would see if I had a second plan is you could select this plan where it gives you the information here. You could select a different plan if there's one available, and you would see them side by side. And you would be able to see what the difference in the plan is, the one that used the index, maybe the one that did not, and is now experiencing the performance impact, right?
And just to identify whether there was plan flip or not, just look at that plan count column. If the count is more than one, that means there was a plan flip.
Yep, and now you can dig in a bit deeper and kind of, you could see in the graph when it starts to fluctuate, likely where it started, or when it started, I'm sorry. All right, we will come back to lock analysis, I promise you. But for now, we're going to move on to telemetry. So I think this telemetry page is awesome, right? This is just, again, an opinionated dashboard that you don't have to set up. It's just as soon as you enable it, these metrics start popping in. right? And it's a lot of, high level metrics that you would like to see: the CPU utilization, free memory, IO latency. I'm not running through the 18 metrics on this page, but there's a lot of really useful metrics that we've identified working with customers and being experts with databases as well that we think you would like to see. But these aren't the only metrics that are available, right? So we have this create widgets button. And from here, there are a ton of different OS metrics you can add. There's other database metrics you can add and CloudWatch specific metrics, right? There are a lot of metrics. If there's other things that are important to you for your database, you can go ahead and select it and add it to this metrics dashboard so that you can see that in the future and you'll have that additional context without having to go to another screen, without having to go dig in CloudWatch metrics for it. You can just have it within the metrics for your database.
So that screen that has all those widgets, if I add something to it, will that remain for every host, every database instance that I'm looking for, or for just that specific database instance that you're in now?
Yeah. I think if I'm not wrong, we saved the dashboard per engine type. Okay, yes. So that means that if Joe now makes a change for Aurora PostgreSQL or whatever engine he's looking at, then we're going to save that dashboard for all Aurora PostgreSQL.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. Excellent. That's a very nice feature, yeah, because you can customize it however you want and put the things that you feel are important for you. Okay.
And again, we are offering hundreds of metrics, and we are only showing here 18 widgets.
Right. Okay,
so this is as Joe said, is a way to get it started. But it's not the end. No, it's like we then expect customers to customize it for their own interest.
And we have customized this for engines. Like you will see different 15 metrics when you go to MySQL engine or if you go to Oracle engine. Exactly. So these are starting point, and you can start your troubleshooting from here.
Got it. Awesome.
All right, so let's get to logs. I mean, logs are always important, right? The logs for the database. I know Andres is a big logs fan. So we have a pretty simple interface here, right? We have logs where we can search for the logs, right? So let's just see if there was anything fatal in my logs. I'm just going to check if there's anything fatal in my logs. Sure enough, I was able to find some fatal events that were happening. Connection to client lost. Maybe that's something I should look into. Maybe that's something I need to know, right? This is a cool, scan through my logs of what has happened. But what we have are two other little cool buttons here. We have Livetail, right, which is CloudWatch Log Insights Livetail, where if you want an active stream and are troubleshooting your logs, this is a great way to do it, right? Before I click on that button, if you had various log groups that you wanted to select, and they would show up here and you could select them. For this example here, I have the one log group for my PostgreSQL. I'm going to go ahead and pop this open. As this comes up in just a second, this is going to take us over to the logs in the Livetail section in CloudWatch for our logs. I'm going to go ahead and start the Livetail, pop this back out. I'm going to just give it a second to load. While it's doing that, we also have the Log Insights button. So if you wanted to take your RDS logs or your Aurora logs, and you wanted to run some advanced queries on what's happening with those logs, you'd be able to do it there. Or better yet, something that you can do using those logs is if you know that these fatal events shouldn't be occurring, you could also take the logs from CloudWatch and create a metric filter on fatal events in your logs so that someone is notified or some automated action is taken to correct that or be corrected by a human or potentially AI ops, another discussion. And so let's come back to the actual Livetail. So now we have a Livetail. These are our active streaming logs from the database. So same thing. Let's say I was looking for something matching select, right? I can hit select, press enter. All of these specific fields now, or log entries, have blue matching select. I can expand it. It'll show me exactly where it is. I can see that query. If I was looking for something back again, fatal, that's something I want to look at. Hey, I gave it kind of a red color. That's good because, it is kind of something to keep an eye on. It starts to layer it, right? I can start putting in different topics, and you can jump to the logs without having to look at each log, having to search for them in real time. You can see those logs and start trying to troubleshoot what's happening when. So this is really powerful for like an active troubleshooting event, to where it's going to continue to stream the logs. You can filter them accordingly, and you can focus only on the ones that are important to you.
Love it.
Awesome. All right, from there, slow queries. We mentioned this. This is some of the telemetry that's really important to understand how your database is performing, and the queries specifically are performing. So what we do, and this is part of having the log ingestion, that Felix mentioned before. If you're importing those logs, you can select the specific query patterns. You can see how often those queries are run, and based on the queries that are being run, like the ratio to queries that are running for that database. And then you can start to get some specific metrics on those, right? Where I see this specific query has run this many times with an average duration in seconds, right? You get an idea of what that is. And you have like P50. Let's see if I can scroll over. I might shrink this just a little bit. I know that's teeny tiny, but it shows P50, P95, and then max duration. And you can see that for those. So if you might see some that have a really high max duration or a high P95, but the P50 is pretty low. Maybe that's something you should investigate. I'm going to zoom back in. I know that was tiny.
So Joe, like you showed the top SQL tab in the DB load analysis. So there were top SQLs, and now you are showing slow SQL queries here. So I just want to highlight the difference here. So the top SQL tab you show under DB load analysis are the top SQLs based on the database load that they are generating, measured in terms of average active sessions. Whereas, and though we only show top 25 SQLs in the top SQL section in the DB load analysis. Whereas in the slow query section or slow query tab, we show you all your long running queries for the time duration you have selected at the top using your time picker. So this is the major difference. And please continue with your.
I think that the key point is that you can have a very long running query that is not introducing load, so that will never show up in the other tab. But it might be important for you to know that, hey, you have had that thing running for a week, even though it's not introducing considerable load. That could be something important you would like to know.
Yeah. Awesome. Back to events. We looked at events. I didn't have any for this specific instance like we saw previously, but it's basically the same thing we saw before, where there were the events that were laid out, but now you'd be able to search through those events in the same way. I could jump over to that in a bit. Next, OS processes. If you want to know what's going on your instance OS and what's running in the process is taking up the memory, you can view that here. I'll go ahead and scroll this over. You can start to look at the name of those processes, see what the utilization is, the process IDs and such. And it just gives you some additional insights into what's happening on that instance. Okay. On to performance analysis. So performance analysis, which I'm going to kick off and then we'll look at one. It's a snapshot in time of the performance of your database, right? So if I analyze performance, I'm just going to create a performance report. It's going to run. While that's running, it doesn't take very long, but I'm going to go ahead and just open one that's already completed.
I like that cooking show effect you're throwing.
Hey, you're welcome. Yeah, I've watched a lot of Bake Show. I know how it goes. That's great. So as this comes up, what you're going to see, it has some similarities to what we were looking at before, right? We can see like the load insights, it's under high load, right? You can see what the database is, the database engine, the time. You can view the different thing, entire analysis period. I'm going to leave it under insights. You can see it's under high severity, right? Unusually high database load, right? From here, you can start to carve it out like we saw before with the slices, right? What SQL was running, right? That was generating that high load. Same things we saw before. Which host had the high load on it? Very similar to what we had before, but it's a snapshot in time. So if you needed to go do some historical analysis and you wanted to look at it graphically and have that information, you can do it very easily from here. Additionally, go ahead.
So what is the advantage of having this snapshot? I guess I'm not following. Is this for you to keep and compare? What is the point of this?
Yeah, I can answer that. I think one of the key points here is that we're using like a machine learning model in the background that is
Oh no, did we lose him? Did we
think we
lose him
lost
again?
Felix again.
Yeah, I think I will give you an idea like why do we need this report, right? So Joe has already shown us so many telemetry. Like he showed us
Right.
how to correlate logs, how to correlate metrics. There are 100+ metrics. If I don't have time to go through all the metrics, identify where the anomaly was, and identify the root cause, I want a faster root cause analysis experience. This is the feature for you, right? You don't have to go through and scan through each of the metrics. You
Oh,
just
I see.
click on analyze performance, and it will generate a report for you, and it will tell you what changed during this time.
Okay.
What are the next steps? What shall I do with it? So that is what this report tells you. Like it saves you time analyzing.
So this is like a summary of the state of the database, and it highlights the things that are wrong for you, so that you don't have to go and dig for them.
In
Okay.
natural language. Yeah.
Awesome. This is I love this feature. This is great. Yeah.
All right. So that's the analysis, and it completed while we were looking at it. It probably completed like 5 seconds after I had joined. It happens very, very quickly. But now let's bring it all together, right?
Let's do it.
Let's view the application end to end, and let's take a look, because that was one of the things that customers really wanted. They wanted that single pane of glass staying within here. So I'm going to look at the select. I'm not worried about the performance here. It's just more of showing how you can see it at the moment. But so this is application signals. This is AWS's application performance monitoring tool for observability. And high level, what we have here is we have different operations that are running. And if we have service level indicators defined, which are the SLI health, then with those, we would see if it's unhealthy or healthy. We have one showing unhealthy, and we'll probably be looking at that soon. We can also see there's some additional dependencies not showing faults currently. We have what are known as synthetic canaries. So if you wanted to do a test from the front, like the outside in, and run a repeated test to know the health of your application, you could set those up so that you could do that. Additionally, if you had client pages and you were using like real user monitoring, you could monitor those pages, make sure those are reporting, and have them associated with this service so that you know that that service is healthy and that the customer experience is good. Additionally, we have other metrics down here, latency by services and dependencies. You can see there's this select one. That's something we're going to look at in a bit. You can choose the various levels, right? P50, P90, P99. Other things around request and service by top operations, and some other metrics that are handy to look at. But let's kind of dive into seeing the end-to-end in just a minute. So we have the service operations. We can see that this Lambda service is currently unhealthy for our SLO, which is our service level objective. So we can set our service level objectives to be availability, right? It could be a level of availability like 99.9 or 99.5% availability. You could set it to be latency. So if this specific service is, above a certain allowed latency, we know the customer experience will be impacted. And we can also define these so that they'll have burn down rates, the SLOs, service level objectives. So as we're approaching breaching our SLOs, we can be notified so we can fix this before a customer is ever impacted. And I think that's one of the beauties of being able to utilize it like this. Mm-hmm. But from here, let's kind of dive into some of the dependencies, where now we have some different dependencies. I'm going to focus on the SQL one, right, that we have here. We can see it's the P99 latency. The latency is low on this, and there's not really any specific fault rates, but I wanted to show you kind of end-to-end what this looks like, right? So for this specific dependency, which is that select call, we can see that there's the number of requests and availability that's here, where we could see what these two are, availability and requests. We can see if there's the P99 latency or switching it between all of these, seeing all of them as well. And then if there were, oops, I'm sorry. I just closed that on accident. And then we could see if there's any faults or errors. But let's take a look kind of end to end what's happening here. So I'm going to get this little finger to pop up on this bulb in a second. I'm going to get it. I got it. There we go. And from here, it's going to give us these correlated spans. We could see the spans related to a PG query, right? It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's an ID. And then let's just dive in and see end to end what it looks like for our application. So this is actually bringing us to transaction search, which this is our tracing tool. right, that we can use in CloudWatch, where I'm going to shrink this a little bit here so we can look at this. But we could see end to end that this is actually a canary call that I'm running to make sure that the application's healthy. It's connecting to our API gateway, which is then connecting to Lambda. And then from within Lambda, we're go ahead and calling the PostgreSQL database. So now where the real power is if we were receiving faults in here, these would be red and they would show you that there are faults in here and it would show you the percentage of healthy. We are not seeing those at the moment, but as we scroll down, we can start to view the trace and what's happening. If you haven't seen traces, and this is a little new to you, I'll go through it at a high level, is what we have at the top is this is like the end-to-end call. I'm sorry, this is like the end-to-end for
and we do have a full episode on application signals, just so you know. So if you want to, like you said, high level, it will be enough.
No. So I was just going to say, this is like the end-to-end at the top. And as you go down, it starts to break down the different sections and when they start. So when we get down to the retail service here, we can see that the retail service kicked in. This shows unknown operation, but actually for this, when we look at it, this is when it's running the PG Connect, right? This is when it's trying to connect to the database. It's doing the TCP connection. Right here, it's doing the DNS lookup to make sure that it knows what that endpoint is. And then we get to the SQL statement, where if we come back over here, we can see, and it also shows it here, we can see what database it's trying to connect to, right? We can go straight to that database, right, in Database Insights, which I'll just come over here in a second. And then if we get to the end, we can actually view the SQL query that's being run and being able to dive into that. So if there were faults or high errors, you'd be able to see them here and see what the specific query is related to, and this would be red. At a high level, this is what we wanted to show you there. But there's one other thing that I think is really important that I know, Saurabh, we've been waiting for. Let's take a look at locks. Let's go back to the So let me get back over here. We're back. But this time someone reached out to me and they said, hey, our reporting service wasn't working like about an hour or two ago. And if we look at this, we can see that it's this prod reporting service had some sort of performance spike. What was happening, right? So same thing. I don't know which honeycomb it is, but I'm going to go to service and I'm going to go to report service. All right. And so I'm going to click on these and see, this is the one that has the big spike. Let's take a look at that. All right. I'm going to collapse this for a second. And so what you can see here, we could see there was something happening here, but this is kind of spread out. So I want to focus only on the area that has the data. And so from here, I'm going to change this in a second. There's this lock analysis tab. But what you can see is we can see under weights that we have these locks by transaction ID, locks by tuple, lock manager here, these other locks. Okay. But what we can also do is we can start to look at the different blocking sections, right? Blocking SQL first. Let's take a look at that. So we can see when this update order set ship query was running that these were the specific SQL calls that were getting blocked. Okay, if I wanted to see the specific objects being blocked, we can start to focus on those, right? And see what they are in here. And additionally, I think what this is a good view when you're looking at the actual blocking object, if you wanted to focus on specific ones, that's where you can come into the lock trees here. And we're already kind of highlighting it, but let's say I wanted to look at this 48 to 49 minute. That's where I could come into here and say, okay, I want to focus on that. That's going to shift us over to the section where we want to look at the specific locks that are occurring, right? And then additionally, blocking session, if you wanted to see the specific sessions causing the blocks, right? So now maybe I want to look at here, the 51. So let's look at 51 to 52. I now have the lock tree for that time, and I can start to expand it and see exactly what's happening, right? And expand the subsections and get an idea of what's happening with the session IDs, how many block sessions there were, what the query was, the wait event, and the blocking time. And so I guess with that, Saurabh, is there anything else you'd want me to highlight around the logs?
And there are many more metrics associated with this. You can see in that gear icon. If you click on that gear icon, you can choose if you want to see additional metrics, like what was the state, what was the wait event type, or what was the port number. You can see all those details and in the same view. And as Joe showed, like why are we shifting this screenshot? Why are we shifting these time periods? Because we collect this locking tree data every 15 seconds, and it's a snapshot at that point of time. So these are the different trees at different points of time. That's why we have given you a simple drop down to choose a specific snapshot accurate at that second. So that's why you have these drop downs, and you can find out the root cause behind the blocking session. And once you find this blocking session, you can choose to kill it and fix your performance issue.
This is awesome. Now, and this is a great demo. We only have 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure we cover the last part. Is any final comments, Joe, that you want to give to close out the demo?
I mean, I think this has been giving our customers a really good fleet-wide observability within their accounts. I've had a lot of really good feedback from customers that I've talked with that this is helping them simplify their observability and their operations of identifying what the cause is and resolving it. So really excited to talk to more people about it. And I think as you get hands-on, you're going to really see the power of what database insights brings.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And that was a great demo, Joe. Thank you. I know it was a lot, but you did an amazing job. Thanks for sharing all that with us.
Yeah.
So I want to do like a because we have just a few minutes, like a rapid fire FAQ with Felix and Sarab, right? We don't have any questions on the chat, but I do have a couple of questions here that we prepared to ask you. The first question is, do we have to pay separately for database insights and performance insights?
No. Like your database insight, performance insights is included in your database insights advanced cost, so you don't have to pay separately. And on top of that, I just want to highlight, right now we have this proliferation of database performance monitoring features like enhanced monitoring, performance insights, database insights. So we are going to consolidate all the database performance monitoring features under database insights umbrella. And first step towards that we are taking in 2025. We are going to deprecate performance insights console and pricing associated with it. All these metrics that you see in performance insights is already available in database insights. Joe has already showed us demo about that. To simplify customer experience, to avoid confusion. So that is where we are heading towards.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question, is the cost of retaining database logs included in the database insights price?
No. So database insights has two modes of operation, as Joe showed at the very beginning in the enablement section. So there's the standard, which is basically the free tier, which retains database metrics for 7 days, is targeted for development environments. And then there is the advanced mode, which is also charged per vCPU per hour. It's around $9 per month per vCPU. And it has all the features we have shown, but logs go separately. Okay, logs have a different retention policy that you can configure per log group, and they follow standard CloudWatch logs pricing, but it's just like completely decoupled from the database insights pricing.
That's very good to know. Excellent. Awesome. So I am going to put up this on our screen here. So if our customers want more information about CloudWatch database insights, there's a couple of QR codes that you can scan here and get more information. I want to thank very, very, very much our panel today of experts on database insights. Is there anything else before we conclude that you guys would like to share?
I think that was a great demo. I hope you liked it, and yeah, keep the feedback flowing. We are here to help and to hear what customers need.
Awesome. Excellent. Go play now. Go build, like Werner says, right? Go build. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys, for presenting all this information to us. I think it was extremely helpful to understand better how database insights works, all the features, and thanks, Joe, for that awesome demo too.
Happy to help.
Awesome. And thanks to all of you for joining us today on the Cloud Operations Show. We'll see you in about 2 weeks, where we'll have another awesome topic for you to learn more about cloud operations, how to make them easier so that you can continue being successful in your cloud journey. Thank you, and see you next time.